Welcome to the Space Dreamers podcast, a Sumadre production.
Hey there.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens.
Oh, Jesus. You could do, hey, all you cool creatures and critters. I don't know.
I like that one. Hey, all you cool creatures and critters out there.
Hey, all you lunarians and Martians.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut out one of those, and that's going to be the intro.
That's going to be the intro.
Are you recording?
Yes.
That's hilarious. We can keep riffing.
So we are recording a bonus episode for the Space Dreamers podcast at the moment. I am here. My name is Jared Parisi, as always. I am your host, and I am here with two co-hosts. And who are my co-hosts?
Mallory.
And Amy.
Yes. So if you've listened before, you should most likely remember these two. They've been co-hosts before. So we are here to discuss some random things. This is neither a book nor a collection of short stories, or this is neither a novel nor a collection of short stories. We're talking about one short story. What is, in my opinion, far and away the best Arthur C. Clarke short story, in my opinion. And, you know, I was thinking, I don't really like short stories, but I was thinking this is probably my favorite short story of all time. And there's only one that might be better. And Amy's familiar with it.
What is it?
It's not by Arthur C. Clarke.
What is it?
Remember that short film I made?
Oh, yeah.
The Feather Pillow?
Yes.
Okay, so if you're listening to this and you like weird sci-fi / horror, especially the kind of sci-fi horror that takes place deep in the jungles of the Amazon, then you need to go read The Feather Pillow by Horatio Quiroga. It's a phenomenal short story. And my personal opinion, I only like short stories when they're super short and they have a punchline ending. Yes. Or an ending that completely changes everything you thought about the 5 or 6 pages that came before.
Definitely.
And so The Feather Pillow has an amazing ending. I mean, the Feather Pillow is kind of boring. And the ending hits and you're like, wow, that is so crazy and fucked up and awesome. Same with the 9 billion names of God. I mean, really, it's a little mundane leading up till the ending.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think the one thing, and it's weird, dude, because I've read this story so many times, you know, like over the past 10, 12 years. This time I was struck by, I guess while you're reading it, I don't know, I'm just trying to think back to the first time I read it, which is why I really should just hand this off to Mallory. But the intrigue, like, what do you think it's about before you find out what it's really about? And I would assume you think that, like, okay, Mallory, I'll ask you, did you think the ending of this story would be a bunch of, like, 100 monks chasing those two guys out of the monastery, angry that the computer didn't do what they wanted it to do?
No.
How did you think it was going to end?
I don't think I knew what the end was going to be. I didn't really think about it, but I didn't think the monks would be chasing them around with, like, pitchforks and stuff.
Because that's what they're so afraid of in this story. They think that they're going to be... Because there's literally a line in it where he says, you know, there's like 100 of them and only 2 of us.
Right, yeah. Like,
so when they find
this could
out...
go bad.
Yeah, when they find out it's our machine that didn't do what they wanted it to do, like, what are they going to do? Beat you up?
But I completely agree with that character that says, like, the story about his hometown and the preacher and the same thing happening there, and people just were like, blind faith just was like, oh, well, his calculations were wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time, dude. Y2K and
good
2012.
Yeah, great example. Yeah.
But I loved that line, though. When the guy retorts with, this isn't Louisiana.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, we're so far from home. And in the movie, he goes, this isn't your shitty village or something.
Yeah.
What does he? He, like, totally makes fun of the guy.
Yeah.
He does.
He's like, you're from somewhere that's, like, backwoods or something.
Right.
So I don't even remember the first time I read this story. But I love it. Did you like it, Mallory?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
How do you feel about the ending?
It's cool. I like it.
It's like the whole reason it's good.
Yeah.
Is that last line.
You're right. It's like the punchline ending.
It's the only reason to read the story.
You're kind of like, all right, where's this going? And then boom.
So I do, if anyone's listening to this and you have no idea what the story's about, I figure like, I'll just read what I have here that Clarke wrote about the story. Maybe you guys would be interested too. So I'm reading from The 9 Billion Names of God, the best short stories of Arthur C. Clarke, and this collection was curated by Clarke himself. So these are like his own favorite stories.
Nice.
So this says, the title story was written for want of anything better to do during a rainy weekend at the Roosevelt Hotel. Its basic arithmetic was later challenged by J.B.S. Haldane, but I managed to save the situation by alphanumeric evasions whose precise nature now escapes me. J.B.S. also remarked of this story, and the Star, you are one of the very few living persons who has written anything original about God. Which, I mean, that's quite the...
Wow.
Yeah.
Right?
Quite the compliment.
Yeah.
Right? And if you think about it, it's kind of true.
Yeah, it is kind of true.
Like, who's written an original story about God ever since, like, the first one?
Yeah, I can't really
And
think
then
of any.
Clarke comes along and just blows your socks off with this story.
Yeah.
So, okay. You have, in fact, written several mutually incompatible things. If you had stuck to one theological hypothesis, you might have been a serious public danger. I am glad of my self-contradiction, preferring to remain a prophet with a small p. This is all Clarke writing.
Really? Okay.
Nevertheless, I appear to have created a durable myth. Not long ago, a radio talk on the BBC referred to the opening situation of this story as actual fact. And now that IBM computers have entered the field of biblical scholarship, perhaps this theme is coming a little closer to reality.
Weird.
So, I don't know. Actually, that's kind of weird. He's talking about just computers being involved with religion.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Now I just read the story and I've been thinking about this for the past 24 hours, and now I'm hit with a new thought. So this is written in 1953.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When supercomputers, these massive things that took up whole rooms, were able to do all these calculations that prior had taken one person many hours, days, months to do.
Yeah.
We always talk. Remember, we talked in episode 1 about the implications of spaceflight to religion. What were the implications of
technology
of
on
computers
religion?
to religion? Like, you got to wonder what. Like, was the Pope having conversations at the Vatican? Like, what the fuck are we going to do about these computers if they figure out that God's not real? You know what I mean?
Or that I wonder if anyone has tried to use computers, like this story says, or math, or even science, to prove the existence of God.
Well, I feel like I'm sure there's people who've tried now that we have the amount of technology that we do.
Yeah, I've never thought about it before.
Isn't there? There's something called the God particle that they were researching. It's not because it was to prove or disprove of God.
Well, I think I do kind of know what you're talking about, but I think that refers to something that's in nature.
Yeah, you're
whereas
right.
computers are like man-made.
So like somehow couldn't that like disprove of a God though?
I mean, I don't think it's possible to.
No.
I think it's very disproving God is like just thinking clearly. Like you can't like, you know what I mean? Like even if you disproved God, the believers are not going to believe you.
Right.
Is my point.
Yeah. Because but that's what's so interesting is that you're right. It's easy to disprove it, but I think it's the real difficulty is in proving it. So I wonder if you could, or if people have tried, or if they're still trying to prove the existence of God with math and science, which is the contrary to what we think. We think that science and reason are the opposite of religion and God, but maybe it's...
I feel like someone with true blind faith would always argue that it was flawed because it was human created.
What was?
Math and science?
Yeah, math and science.
Oh. Well, at least human described.
Yeah,
Correct.
not created.
Yeah.
but explained.
Yeah.
Well, to us, we think of math and science, especially math, as a universal truth. But if you're already under the influence of God and religion, then you won't think that certain things that we accept as universal truths are universal truth. You could, if you believe that the Bible is literal truth, you maybe also don't believe that math is something that exists outside the human mind.
It's just like that religion, I don't know which one it is, that doesn't believe in like modern healthcare. Like they don't seek any.
Isn't that Mormonism? Or no, it's
no.
Well, because I read that book, Educated, and this is probably not connected, but she lived in like isolated with her family, and they didn't believe in education or like medicine at all.
Yeah.
But she was like from Utah. I think it had some kind of connection.
It could be like
I can't remember.
Because there's Mormonism, and then there's a bunch of other things that have spurred from that.
Right.
So it could be a sect of that.
So what I do like, it kind of connects to what we were just talking about, is how nonchalant, or just how defiant, or how, what's the best word? How nonchalantly defiant the monk is when he's like, we need your computer. And the guy's just constantly, he's not outwardly rude to him, but he's clearly in his mind, it's like, this is ridiculous. I'm only doing this because you're going to pay me.
Right.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the monk is like, yeah, well, you'll see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's so cool. So maybe I'll give a brief description. Or Mallory. Well, Mallory, why don't you give a description? So Mallory's the only one that hadn't read the story. You'd read it, right? Amy?
Yes, I'd read it.
Okay. So Mallory, tell us what it's about. Tell us about your experience reading it.
Okay.
Just tell us.
So a Tibetan monk goes to this man who runs like a technology and computer company, I'm assuming, of some sort, and asks him to use the machine to come up with all the different names of God, that through like their own like calculations and language, right? He didn't want it in numbers, he wanted it in letters.
Letters, yeah.
Don't they call it an automatic sequencing computer?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're taking all of they devised their own alphabet. Mm-hmm. It's comprised of 9 letters or symbols or whatever.
Yeah.
They input all of those into this computer, and the computer's going to figure out all the possible combinations.
Right. Really quickly. Whereas if they did it themselves, he said they've been working on it for 3 centuries?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
they said, well, it's cool. You have to I think it's kind of important to understand that these monks they're already doing it.
Yes.
They've been doing it for 3 centuries, and they think that it'll take 15,000 years to figure out all 9 billion names of God.
Yeah.
Whereas if they use the computer, they can do it in 100 days.
Right.
Yeah.
So after 300 years, can you imagine that, dude? Just passing that down. It's going to take 15,000 years. You're an integral part of this process.
Right. Just keep at it.
300 years later, someone comes along. We could do it in 100 days. That was going to be my life's work.
Right. It's really looking forward to that, never knowing.
So basically, the monks see it as an opportunity to speed up the process. They believe that the whole point of existing on Earth, the whole meaning of existence, is to discover and name all 9 billion names of God. And they go on to explain that once you do that, there's no longer any reason to exist. For anything to exist. It's like the universe exists. And this idea outside of religion or even science fiction is kind of cool. That everything exists for a purpose, but like a pointless purpose.
Yeah, really kind of pointless purpose.
You know, like imagine if this was true, right? If there was something time out. This is something I need to stop doing, referring to humans as man. Like, what should I say? Humans? Humankind?
Yeah, human beings.
Okay.
Humans, yeah.
So what is, if the purpose of human beings, or the purpose of all existence, was to figure out one thing?
Yeah.
Like, now I lost my train of thought because I got angry that I said man. Or like, if you figure out this whatever random thing that we're supposed to figure out, and then everything just shuts off like a light.
Yeah.
You would never know that anyone figured it out.
Yeah.
That's a very good point, because only one person would have figured it out.
Exactly.
Or one group of people. What about the rest of the world?
Yeah, no one would have even known what had happened.
Yeah, just the Tibetan monks would have known what had happened.
Yeah.
In this story.
And these two guys.
And these two guys, yeah.
So that's where the rest of the story goes. Once they acquire the computer, the monks are going to require two operators.
Yeah, engineers.
Yeah, engineers to oversee and make sure that it runs smoothly and probably put it together, right? Because it's so big they have to break it apart to fly it to India.
Yeah, and you have to understand.
To travel to Tibet.
You have to understand, too, that the story was written in 1953. So it takes place, written in 1952. It takes place in 1952. So, like, just getting to Tibet from New York, which is where the first scene is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easier than climbing Mount Everest, but it's probably difficult, more difficult than it is today.
Yeah, definitely.
And then to also
hike it up to this remote location on the side of a hill.
Yeah, the monastery is on a mountain, basically.
Yeah, definitely.
So they have to haul all that shit up into the temple and sit there while these monks use their computer to print out random combinations of letters. But I mean, the thing is. And it's not evil or it's not nefarious or whatever that they're doing it for this reason, but they're just doing it because the monks will pay them.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like
it's just a job.
Yeah, we need to rent your computer, basically.
They're like, this is silly, but all right.
And I like that line too, where he like shows him his Asiatic bank note.
Yeah.
I wonder how many zeros.
This is sufficient.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
So then our characters basically. The conflict becomes the two engineers become the main characters for the final 3 pages.
Yeah.
And one of them figures out this purpose that we already said.
Right.
When they agree to give them the computer, they don't know that the point of figuring this out
point
is that once you've figured out all 9 billion names of God, continuing to exist, he says, would be blasphemy.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, like, existence will cease of all things once we figure this out.
Yeah.
So rather than these dudes being afraid that the world will end, they're afraid because they're not religious, not even from this. Even if they were religious, they'd probably be Christian. What they're afraid of is that these monks are going to be angry at the people who gave them the machine that was supposed to figure out this task.
What I think is interesting is that it's not even a what if for them. They are just like, it's not going to work.
Right.
So we have to figure out how to get our asses out of here.
Yeah, they're gonna be
so
so
they
mad.
don't take it out on us when it fails. Not if it fails, when it fails.
Yes, that's
which
a good
I think
point.
there's a big distinction. It never enters into their minds at all that it could possibly work.
And it's perfect because that's just that is the outlook of Clarke anyway.
Right.
So if you're a Clarke fan,
right.
It's probably your outlook. But if it's not your outlook and you're a Clarke fan, you know that it's his outlook. So this is the norm.
Mm-hmm.
It's not weird that these characters would think the fantastical is impossible.
Right.
Or at least the fantastical through religion.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So then...
Well, wait. The other thing that I think we need to touch on is remember the line where he says, it'll be the end of the world?
Yeah.
And the monk's response is, it won't be as simple as that.
Yeah. It's not so trivial as that.
Yeah, which is really interesting because these guys think, the world's going to end. And then when you say the world's going to end, it's just our world, Earth.
Yeah.
Right? But what the monk is implying is it's everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. Not just the world. It's not like the world's going to blow up.
Right.
Everything will just cease to exist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. It's like it's just like it almost proves that there is a purpose, but the purpose is so random.
Right.
And once that purpose is fulfilled, there's no need for any of this.
Yeah.
Or any of that on the other side of the sky.
Yeah.
That's my favorite phrase, by the way, when I talk about aliens.
What?
The other side of the sky.
Oh,
It's
I
so
like
good.
that.
It's so
Yeah, I
perfect.
like that. I've never
Good.
heard that before.
Me neither, but I like it. Yeah.
Everything not earthly exists
Yeah.
on the other side of the sky.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the two guys devise basically a way to pretend that something's broken.
Yeah.
So that they can make the machine stop printing names for enough time that when it's done, they will be gone on the airplane back to New York.
Right.
So they do that, and they pull it off flawlessly. And so they're on horses riding down the mountain
Yep.
away from the monastery where their computer is still patiently ticking out names. And one of them wonders, oh, gee, right about now is when the thing should be done. Like, I wonder if they're pissed.
Yeah.
And then, one of, in my opinion, the greatest lines ever. Let's see. He says, should be there in an hour, he called back over his shoulder to Chuck. Then he added in an afterthought, wonder if the computer's finished its run. It was due about now. Chuck didn't reply, so George swung round in his saddle. He could just see Chuck's face, a white oval, turned towards the sky. Look, whispered Chuck, and George lifted his eyes to heaven. There is always a last time for everything. Overhead, without any fuss, the stars were going out.
So good.
That is a good line.
It is
good ending line.
Fucking good.
So good.
It's better. Okay. Is it or is it not better than But He Would Think of Something?
Oh, yeah, because that's such a good ending line, too.
I know.
I can't decide.
I know.
But if we say that it's better, then I'm going to have to get another fucking tattoo. Because,
yeah.
So, what I love about But He Would Think of Something on its own is not that great of a line. Fuck it, let's get into it.
When you don't know the context,
Dude,
yeah.
It's what that line proves is that what you assume through the entire novel of 2001 is true. It just proves what you've been thinking. Because it's repeated. He uses it the first time he says it, the he refers to Moonwatcher, the first monkey to become the next step of humanity. And then he refers it to the Star Child. So it just proves that it's all connected, and it's all just the monoliths did it to the monkeys, and they did it to humans.
Oh my God,
Anyway.
I cannot wait to read that book again.
Right?
I'm so excited.
Me too.
So excited. Anyway, but this story. So essentially, in this little story, he proves that God exists. Right?
Yeah, I mean, he does in this story.
And that he has
Which is anti-Clarke.
And that he has 9 billion names.
Yeah.
I wish they had given out some of the names.
Now, okay, so
well, we wouldn't have comprehended them.
Sure.
Remember, it's like
Yeah.
it's its own alphabet.
Sure.
And remember, there's that line there's that bit about how in the very beginning where he says they've devised a way to sort out no 3 of the same letters can be in a line.
Oh, yeah.
And the guy goes, you mean 2? Or
Yeah.
he thinks 3 is a so obviously we would not even be able to say them.
To understand
Well, another
it.
thing
Yeah.
that's interesting,
Plus, it's pointless.
the computer isn't. I would assume that neither the computer nor the monks actually know which names are the 9 billion names. What the computer is doing
Right.
is simply printing out
Right.
every
All of
single
them.
possible combination of every letter in
Yeah.
their alphabet that
Yeah.
they devised. So they don't even know.
That is true. They don't
just-
even really know.
They just
Yeah.
have a stack of
Yeah.
paper with letters
like which
on it.
which ones are a name and which ones aren't. Yeah.
'Cause that's what he said, because in the beginning
Right.
he's like, so you're going to start with A,
Yeah.
and end with Z, 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 Z.
And so it's nothing as special as we have to say the names of God. We just
Right.
have to come up with them.
Makes sense.
Just pull them into existence.
Yeah, kind of like the idea of their prayer wheels, I guess, where like the wheel spins, so it says the mantra, so it's like saying the prayers over and over and over and over again, more than you could actually do yourself.
So
Yeah.
this is a really crazy thing to imagine, like using technology to I don't even know, improve upon our ability to interact with the divine?
Yeah, make
is
it faster.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, okay, so when you say, so in this story, Clarke basically says that God exists. Yeah. At the same time, he says that, yeah, God exists, but technology that we create as humans and scientific curiosity beat God.
Yeah, like made it possible.
Like, not beat him, but like just did what we were meant to do that would take 15,000 years and did it in 100 days. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, but wouldn't one argue that God gave us those gifts and abilities? Isn't that the whole thing?
This would take, I don't know, because I don't know
so
what their God. And then what is the monk's God? I don't even know.
Well, we did a little research on that, and so I think that it's just God as like God. Remember in the book, he gives it like he
like
says
Jehovah,
Jehovah, Allah, like so like
Jah.
all the like all the gods, like any like God as humans, imagine.
So basically,
it's not a certain God. It's just like everyone's God. Like. Yeah.
So when they start doing this, they're what, like 3,000 already named?
Who knows?
Yeah.
They're like 3,000
because they'd been working on it for centuries, so
they
already had some names.
I'm just saying, because there's been approximately, if you get like 3,000 gods that have been legitimately believed in on this planet.
Because I don't think in the story it's not like their God or your God or his God. It's more like the idea of God, which every civilization on this earth has come up with their own version of it.
Right.
So it's just the concept of God. And then we were delving a little bit into Tibetan Buddhism specifically.
Because a lot of Buddhism, there's no purpose of God per se. Like it's not that they do or don't believe in a God, but they don't like pray to
a God.
The idea of Buddhism in general is to achieve enlightenment, to achieve the no suffering, to eliminate all suffering so you reach a state of nirvana. So like God really doesn't have a part in it, but apparently Tibetan Buddhism
does incorporate
they
incorporate a lot of like their old beliefs and their old gods, and so they have a bunch of like supernatural deities and godlike figures in their sort of rituals and prayers and celebrations or whatever. So again, it's just it's not that there is or isn't. It's not about that. It's more just like how to like kind of live your life and improve your existence.
Yeah, to kind of like achieve the ultimate state of being, I guess.
So there is room for God. There's room for a God to exist, or something that even
like
if you don't,
creator,
a creator, or a eye in the sky, a higher purpose.
Because most Buddhism is like you can believe in a God that's a creator, or you can believe in science, like the Big Bang Theory. Either way, that is your belief system, and that doesn't make any difference of Buddhist teachings.
Yeah. So it would make sense. Yeah, so it would make sense that that these lamas would be interested in the existence of God, whatever you want to call him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, it kind of would bring them to their end goal, which would be like a state. Because doesn't Buddhism, they believe in reincarnation?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what goes on? Were they expecting the world would end and then they reincarnate into something bigger and greater?
The world doesn't end. Everything ends. That's why the stars go out, man.
Well, actually, that does make more sense, because I think once you reach, like, the whole point, I believe, of reincarnation is like once you reach your ultimate like nirvana enlightenment state, you don't reincarnate anymore.
Interesting.
You are, I don't know,
one with
everything. Yeah.
But that's what's so cool is like the stars are going out.
Wait, so dude, in that case, like the best fucking humans in the world are probably on their last run.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Right? When you think about it. It's like,
yeah. Like who would be
Like Mother Teresa.
Right.
She was,
Yeah.
that was it.
Yeah.
That was it for her.
Yeah.
Betty White.
She's on to
Yeah,
better.
Betty White.
Betty
totally.
White maybe just has like one more.
Yeah. Maybe one more.
I don't know if Betty could get any better.
Right?
She's definitely enlightened.
That's awesome. Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Oh, yep.
Yep. That might have been
RBG.
the. I'm sensing a theme here that usually your last life you're a female.
You're a woman, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like a guy, but no. Maybe Jesus.
Obama?
I'm
No,
just
Jesus
kidding.
is supposed to come back. Remember?
Yeah, technically.
I don't remember. I remember nothing. So
the whole universe, all the stars go out. They're just done. They just drop from the sky. Darkness. Well, because once the stars go out, there's darkness everywhere.
Yeah.
And then you're just get lost in the vacuum of space, presumably, right? Unless that was part of God as well, so that ceases to exist.
what are you asking? Because
I'm just talking.
I have thoughts about the ending because basically last night I tried to get Mom, Amy and I's mother, to watch the movie with me.
Yeah.
I didn't think she'd want to read the story, but I was like, we're going to talk about this tomorrow on the podcast. Like, you want to watch 15 minutes? You want to watch?
Yeah.
She's like, nah. So then I explained it to her. And at the end, whenever you explain science fiction to Mom, she's like, asks all the wrong questions.
Really?
Which is that's just whatever. If you're not into sci-fi,
Yeah,
you're not
some people have a different perspective, definitely.
But we got into, what does that imply? The stars are going out. And I was like, well, I think it's a good thing the story ends there, because if it didn't, then Clarke would have to go into all these scientific explanations as to why this, because if the stars are all at different distances, they're not all going to go out at the same time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's I imagine maybe Clarke had to check out from his hotel at the Roosevelt. And he was like, I really want to explain how this is possible, but I got to go back to Sri Lanka. So he was like, all right, I'll just publish it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I find that's very not like Clarke to have something so not. But I think the story's perfect. I don't think there's no improvements.
Well, and I
necessary.
liked it because it was kind of like when the stars went out. It's like in the theater when the lights go out, the show's over. Everything's done.
Oh, I like that.
I think this will be a good. Well, I picture that ending as the stars are going out. I pictured it as they didn't all go out at once. It was just out. Almost like let's say you put the whole universe on this table, okay, and you just swept your arm across the table, right? In one sweep, the whole universe is gone. But if you're on the edge where you don't start sweeping, you would see things far away start to be swept away, and then you would disappear.
Yeah.
So that's what I imagine. It's like maybe the hand of God is just snuffing out all the stars, and it just hasn't gotten to our corner of the universe yet. Yeah. That's why they see it in the stars.
And also how he specifically says without any fuss. So it wasn't
so good. Dude.
It wasn't like a big flash explosion.
like a dramatic event.
It was exactly what you're describing. It's just slowly slipping away.
Right. It's like, okay, good job, humans.
Yeah.
You cut yourselves a little short there, but
you could have gone on for 15,000 more. 15.
Right.
What is it? 15.
We gave you more time.
Yeah.
You just had to be in a hurry.
You had to use
That's
that
so crazy.
supercomputer.
So this will be a good transition to the movie.
Yeah.
Because we talked about it in another episode. I don't remember which one at this point. We talked about it in another episode how there are certain things that are perfect for print that don't translate to film. There are things that are perfect for an audio-visual experience that you really can't put in a book.
Yeah.
And I thought the ending of the movie was really cool because so first of all, what I love in the beginning when it showed the credits, it was the pitter-patter of a typewriter. The noise was the pattering of the printer of the computer.
Right.
And then when the stars go out, they go out to the sound of the patter of the computer, which is literal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's another cool thing to imagine. Imagine, okay, how, I don't know what the, I'm zipping on my fly over here. I don't know what the, sorry. I don't know what the, I don't know what the best guess for how many stars there are, but let's say there are 9 billion in the universe. And every time you name God, a star gets snuffed out.
Ooh, that's a cool
So
lot.
imagine this, dude. Imagine there are 3,000, as I said earlier, approximately 3,000 gods have been believed in on this planet.
Yeah.
Imagine there are 3,000 stars out there that have been snuffed out for the last 2,000 years because we named a god.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, weird. And we're like just leading to our own demise by like naming all these gods.
It'd be so crazy. Or if our world got snuffed out because some weirdo aliens were figuring it out over in,
Right?
Nova Draconis.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I don't know. So
Yeah.
what did you guys think of the movie?
We should definitely call it a short film. How long is it?
15 minutes.
15 minutes?
Yeah.
And I did find it funny that in the credits for the short film, they call the short story a book, which was weird, but whatever. I thought it was great. I thought it was like it's a literal description visually of the entire book, and it works really well.
Yeah, it
I
does
just said
work
book,
really well.
short story, and it works really well.
I did take things that I really liked. I mean, things that I liked about it don't really have anything to do with Clarke or the adaptation. I just thought they were well done.
Yeah.
I really liked. Let me find.
I will say that the ending is, although very creative, I really liked it, is not nearly as impactful as when you read it.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree too.
Yeah.
It's like, see, I was what do you call it? I was torn with the ending because I wanted it to be cooler, but at the same time, it's exactly what's in the book.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you can't fault it.
Right. No.
And the one, like I said, that one little addition of the patterning of the printer as the stars disappeared, I thought was so cool.
Yeah.
Because it
good.
conveys to you maybe, I don't know what it's like to watch that video without having read the story, but
Yeah.
maybe it conveys to you that what is snuffing out these stars is the machine.
Right.
That you two Nimrods just brought to the to the monks. So here's an interesting. The one you guys watched had I think French subtitles.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I wrote a note here that I wouldn't understand what the monk is saying unless I had just read the story. There were a couple times
Yeah, it was a little difficult.
in the beginning where he spoke, and I did not hear what he said at all, and then I only knew what he said because I literally just read it, and based on the response from the guy speaking normal English. I love that it takes place in the 50s, and I thought the shots of the computer were so cool.
Yeah.
Like, I thought the computer, like the design,
Yeah.
was so cool. And I don't know, I just thought it worked. I thought, like, the cinematography in that movie was, like, really good.
Really
Yeah,
good.
for like a short film, it was really good.
Yeah.
It was almost a little bit, like, too polished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But it was
yeah.
nice. It was really good.
nice.
I loved the part where they were doing that pattern in the sand and then brought it all together and mixed the colors into a spiral.
Yeah, it was really neat.
It was cool.
Did you catch that those are real monks, real
Yeah,
llamas?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that was so, and that I presume that's a real monastery as well.
Yeah, I would
and
imagine.
and
That was really neat.
and like I said, I don't know if I don't know if I said this on the podcast, but in the story or in that collection of short stories, the preface to this story is that the Dalai Lama it garnered a positive response from the Dalai Lama himself.
Yeah.
That this story.
Yeah.
So
There's just so many like like there are just so many like opposites in this too. You have like the Western, Eastern, you have the science, you have the religion, you have the believers and the non-believers. Like it's one of those things. It is a very short story, and there's just like a lot going on.
I thought it was interesting in the beginning, or I'm sorry, in the movie. I feel like it's way more way more ominous.
You get that vibe from the short film.
I feel like the two men are way more freaked out than they appear to be in the
But, that one guy in the film, he was like freaking out, like he thought they were literally gonna chase him out of town with pitchforks and fire.
But I think it's interesting what you just said too about how there's so many things going on, because like I put so many marks. It's like every paragraph is important.
Yeah.
You know, like there's just zero filler.
Yeah, it's what's so cool about short stories, man.
At least the ones that are done really well. But so wait, actually I want to plug one more short story.
What?
By another South American writer.
Yeah.
That I just read very recently. Yeah. Remember I posted a thing on Instagram recently, and we always talk about, and I firmly believe, a lot of science fiction is very much about identity. And like questioning your own identity. Yeah. Well, there's a story by Julio Cortázar called Axolotl. Yeah. Which is, it's like a little, you know what that is?
Yeah, that
little fish thing, little salamander thing.
Yeah, and it has like the little like flowy things around its head.
Looks
People
like a
are
little
like
dragon.
Obsessed with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like totally
they're
adorable.
Wicked cute.
Yeah.
So it's a short story about a guy, very short story.
Yeah.
About a guy who finds himself constantly going to this aquarium. Mm-hmm. And he finds himself always watching the axolotls. And he goes there and he stares at them. And he wonders while he's staring at them what it would be like to be an axolotl. And then through just really just a very well-written short story, by the end, he is the axolotl looking at himself as an axolotl, wondering if the man looking at him is writing about him.
What?
So then while you're reading it, you're like, he's right. He is writing about you because I'm reading it. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's a cool concept.
Yeah, so that came from a book of short stories called Blow Up and Other Stories by Julio Cortázar. It's not that's not science fiction, but it's not the only like magical realism, like spooky kind of shit going on. Yeah. So check out that story that book if you're interested. And especially, like I said, Axolotl.
For someone who doesn't like short stories, you sure do read a lot of them.
I really don't, though.
You're reading more than I am. Those sound great. I want to check them out.
Yeah, well, both. Yeah, well, yeah, both. The Feather Pillow was assigned to me in 10th grade, if you can believe that.
Really?
I was 10th grade reading that fucked up short story.
That's wild.
Yeah, and I loved it back then, and I've always loved it. And then Blow Up and Other Stories was assigned to me by the professor that I'm working on potentially another podcast.
Oh, cool.
Where somebody attempting to educate me told me to read that story.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, so let's move on. So like, I don't know, anything else to say? I mean, this is going to be a short episode. It's a 7-page short story. So it's
no, I love the story. I think it's awesome. It's so fun to have a conversation about it.
Yeah, it's really fun to have a conversation. I recommend having you and a couple of friends read it and talk about it.
Totally.
Because you could talk about it forever.
True.
And so many different opinions could come up.
Yeah. Okay, now I also assigned Amy and Mallory a movie to watch so that we could have another thing to talk about. And so if I could give this movie a better name, which, first of all, Knowing is a stupid name for a movie. We're talking about the movie Knowing from 2009, I believe, starring Nicolas Cage, Rose Byrne, and some creepy little kids.
Yep.
And Ben Mendelsohn, who I didn't know he was in. I fucking love that actor.
Yeah, he was great.
He's one of my favorite current actors.
Really?
Anyway, yes.
You've got to watch that show.
I don't have to watch that show.
No, you do. What is it called? The Outsider? Is it Outsider?
Oh, yeah, The Outsiders.
Is that what it is? Yeah. No, not Outsiders, just Outsiders. Because Outsiders is a
Does he
book.
play Pony Boy?
Stop it. No, it's just The Outsider, I think it is.
I think you're right. I think
and
it's
yes, Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
That show looks sick.
Oh, it's so good.
It's really good.
Okay.
You should definitely check it out.
Okay.
It's a limited series. It doesn't take too long.
All right.
It's very good. He's incredible in it. That's my first experience with Ben Mendelsohn,
Yes.
And he was fantastic.
Okay, have you seen Killing Them Softly with Brad Pitt?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's the first time I saw Ben Mendelsohn.
Really? I don't even remember him in that.
He plays the Australian. Well, he is Australian. He plays. You know how there's two guys who do the heist. in the beginning?
I don't remember this movie at all.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Really?
It's,
I should watch it again. Okay, I do remember it. Like, I remember it, but I don't remember it.
It's about two guys who knock off a poker game.
Yeah.
Who the people who are in the poker game have already been robbed by the guy who runs the poker game.
Yes.
So the idea is that if they get robbed again,
yes,
they will automatically assume that it's the guy who did it the first time.
Right.
And they'll kill him,
yes,
and the two guys will get off scot-free.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So anyway, the two guys,
yeah,
one of them is Scoot McNairy, who's also a dope actor.
Yeah.
And the other guy is Ben Mendelsohn.
Okay, cool.
And he's just so good in it. It's not science fiction, but
nice.
I would love to do a podcast about George V. Higgins, who wrote the book that movie is based on.
Yeah.
Because I've consumed almost everything he's ever written. But anyway.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Back to knowing.
Yes, knowing. Okay, a better title for that movie would be Knowing the Signs of Childhood.
That's a good title.
No, well, it's not a good title. The reason I say that is because it completely and totally rips off Signs, and it completely and totally rips off Childhood's End.
Wait, how does it rip off Signs?
Okay, so in Signs,
yeah,
your main character is Mel Gibson.
Yeah,
Mel Gibson plays a preacher or a pastor,
right,
who leaves the church.
Yes,
previous to the movie happening,
right,
because his wife gets hit by a car.
Yes,
and she's pinned to a tree between the car and the tree.
Yep.
And she's alive, but she's only alive because the car is pinning her.
Right.
So he goes up to her and he speaks to her. It's very sad. I love Signs. A lot of people don't.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway.
I like that movie too.
Yeah.
So he speaks to her and she says 4 things that he assumes are important, but then he finds out later that a doctor or something explains to him that was just her brain randomly firing synapses and memories coming into her head, and that it meant nothing. It was not this dying breath request to her husband, some important message from God, because he's religious, right? He's a pastor. Right. He then determines that no, there is no one looking out for us. We are alone, and it's chance versus destiny.
Oh, okay. I'm gathering the similarity.
So what is Nicolas Cage's main conflict? And where does it stem from?
That
a dead wife,
right? Because his conflict is that there's no rhyme or reason for everything, for anything.
Yeah, and it's just in knowing it because he's an MIT professor. It's not about God. It's about like physics and chemistry and like the makeup of like the universe.
Right. He's only a scientific mind. No spirituality there for him.
Exactly, but it's the exact same conflict, and it comes from the exact same event, the death of your wife.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a ripoff, but that's okay.
That's right.
But,
wasn't his dad a preacher? Yeah, his dad's like a preacher.
Who?
Nicolas Cage in the movie.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
He
is.
He is a preacher.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it's funny, though, because at the same time, I say like, oh, they ripped off Signs.
Yeah.
I was 12 when Signs came out, and I saw it in the theater, and I loved it. And it's like, that probably ripped something else off.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, anyway, and it's also, I mean, the last 30 minutes are Childhood's End.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Obviously.
So, but I don't know, dude. You guys like that movie?
I actually really did like it.
I have so many thoughts.
I liked it too.
Okay.
I enjoyed watching it.
And I loved the way the aliens at the end look. Spoiler.
Oh, dude. Well, yeah. So it's just one of those movies that like they didn't advertise it properly, and they're just what do you do? It's like the final 30 minutes are a completely different movie.
Even the description when we pulled up the movie on what did we watch it on? Like on demand or
just
something.
On demand, yeah.
It was so bland. Like I would have never picked it up based off that description. And with Nicolas Cage, it can go here or there. So like you either love it or it's ugh. So I was a little suspicious going in if it would be good or not. And then I really ended up liking it a lot.
So remember, I said that before you watched it that the way it's made is very traditional. It's like your traditional, super boring and like mundane, like there's no inspiration. It's just like a supernatural paranormal thing where like this kid like has creepy kids, it has jump scares, it has like It's just so nondescript leading up to the final 30 minutes.
Right. Like, and I hear voices in my head, like the whispering.
Yeah, dude. It's
and then just seeing that one guy all the time was wicked creepy.
Yeah,
like
that
just
creepy
show up
dude
and
who
watch
looked like
the
the creepy dude who looked like Sting.
Yeah.
but so anyway, like another the movie's 2 hours long. It's like you could have cut out a lot of, like, it's like what kind of movie were you trying to make? Like, at what point in creating this film did it get twisted into what it is now? Like, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Because if you make a movie that is so bombastically sci-fi by the end of it, was it really your intention the whole time writing the script to have the first 90 minutes be
some
creepy little kids
diversion? Yeah,
I can't imagine
I don't
that
know.
it was. You know?
Yeah. But at the same time, like, that was kind of like the big drop at the end that they're aliens. So you can't really give that off right away, I feel like.
That's true. I guess if they're going for the surprise ending that they're aliens,
they achieved that. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I need to watch it again.
Well, okay, so
knowing the ending.
So there are a couple like, I guess I would consider them plot issues that I have with it. And the whole idea of the grandmother of the child who ends up being chosen. The grandmother, as a child, was hearing the whispering. But my problem is, what was the point of that at the very, like, if what was the point of that?
No.
If she wasn't one of the chosen ones?
I don't know. And I mean, that there's also the issue of, like, it appears these aliens are doing this, like, as a gift to us, right? Like, they know that the world is going to get destroyed.
Yes, exactly.
So why would you be so fucking creepy while you're here?
Right.
Like, I'm not saying you go to the extremes of what happens in Childhood's End, but
right.
Why would you be so creepy?
Well, it's also interesting
if you're trying to help
the
us.
aliens can't seem to communicate with the adults, but they can with the children.
Yeah, and see, that's the other thing, is that if you think about it, you could only hear the whispering, but you have to presume that they're completely and totally communicating with the children, and the children know exactly what they're saying, so that when they do meet them and they're around, they're not, like, that
creeped out by
it.
Dude, so the other thing is, why? What is even the point of the numbers and the dates?
That's what I'm saying, though. That's what I'm saying.
So that's what I'm saying too.
Like, why would they give that information to the grandmother of the chosen child, right? They give that to her as a child, right? Then why would she have that information? And, like, why does anyone need to know any of that? Because at first I was like, well, they need to know all that so that he can get them to the destination. But then I'm like, wait, they got kidnapped. The kids get kidnapped. They get taken to the place that the spaceship's gonna land.
Oh yeah, that part where when they steal
the car.
Aliens. Yeah, it's so weird, dude. It's like, are you making a horror movie or are you making a sci-fi movie? You need to pick one,
or an action movie.
Yeah.
I mean, there was that too. But
that
anyway,
whole scene at the gas station was ridiculous, dude.
Yeah. But it was better than the subway. But anyway.
Yeah.
So, but, like, that's what I'm saying is, like, I kept trying to figure out why anyone needed those friggin' numbers. And they don't, because
I just thought it was, like, a way to warn them, like, hey, maybe get out of here.
What?
Maybe that are proving that all these things are going to happen on these certain dates at these certain places. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, like, maybe somehow to stop them, but they can't stop them.
You can't stop them.
Nicolas Cage makes that obvious.
Right, you can't stop it. There's nothing that they can do about the solar flares and nothing they can do about the destruction of the planet. So at first I thought, well, he needs the numbers so he can get the kids to the place that they can get picked up, but he didn't bring them there. The aliens who were on Earth kidnapped the kids and brought them there.
Yeah, but maybe they were going there anyway. But Rose Byrne took the kids, and then remember, he's at a different place calling her, and he's like, "I'm coming to you. We're not going to the caves. We're going to this place that I figured out." And then maybe
so he was going to bring them. That was the backup plan.
Right?
Oh,
maybe because
I gotcha.
Rose Byrne,
Yeah, you're right.
wanted to go to the caves, the aliens had to step in and be like, all right, this bitch is distracting.
Yeah, okay, I didn't think about that.
But
yeah, you're right.
At the same time,
like maybe the aliens were the backup plan. Like, let's get the guy. But why couldn't the aliens just go get the kids out of the house?
Exactly. That's the thing. Like the
then
aliens.
There wouldn't be a movie, Amy.
I mean, no, really, the aliens should have showed up and been like, a solar flare's coming.
Yeah.
They could probably do it without anyone even knowing. They can turn themselves into little humans. They could just fucking abduct.
Yeah, just take
the kids.
I mean, kids get stolen and abducted all the time.
Maybe that's where they're going.
What?
Never mind. I shouldn't minimize people getting abducted. Never mind. That's not funny. So.
And what was the point of the rocks? Can we talk about the rocks?
Yeah, what was the point of the rocks?
The hell was the point of the rocks?
The movie's too goddamn long. Dude, it's like, and even like, it's just so. I think this movie's great, and I'm glad that it exists.
Yeah.
I had nothing but positive thoughts until I actually started talking.
Well, I know, me too. That's the thing, that like
nothing really. It doesn't really make sense.
When you're watching it, you enjoy every minute of it, like how it goes from A to B to C to D, and then even when you're done, you're like, that was a cool movie. I really like that movie. But yeah, you're right. Once you start talking about it, we're just like
kind of falls apart.
Yeah,
like the time capsule is completely unnecessary.
Right?
Yeah,
it's so unnecessary.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is like, why would they have interacted with a child who was obviously going to grow up and be an adult? What was she hoping she was going to hop on the spaceship, and that's why she?
Well, you have to maybe. Well, because the thing gets dug up a couple weeks before the world ends, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the aliens knew that.
But
I don't know.
remember the child from the very beginning of the movie is the grandmother of the child who ends up being going to space. So, but that woman, remember, she was like, they thought she was crazy, and that was her mobile home. That was where the aliens would come.
Yes.
But why would they weren't going to take her? They only took the kids.
Maybe because the kid, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I literally don't. The best part about this thing is that you realize I thought it was just going to be those two kids, but then remember when it takes off and there's like tons of them. So the same weird shit was happening all over the place.
Yeah. No, I love that. Because when I saw the aliens going through all this trouble to take two kids, I was like, that's going to be an inbred new society of man. Or of humans. Sorry.
Yeah.
But then you realize, oh, it's like all over the world.
Yeah.
And man, like, I thought that spaceship was pretty fucking cool.
Oh, it was awesome.
Yeah.
I loved it.
It looked like crystal. I don't know.
I just loved how at first you couldn't even tell what you were looking at.
Yeah.
Which is like, we've talked about that before. Like, alien shit is probably unrecognizable.
Yes.
Right.
And then, by the end you kind of see it from far away. It's like this crystal pointing to the sky or whatever. And then too, man, when the aliens looked human, I was like, oh, this is kind of lame with their little black cloaks.
Yeah.
And then they turn into aliens,
like
and you're
Matrix.
like, oh, they're like energy. That's so cool.
I like how like their brains glowed and like the inside glowed.
And I just think if you took that movie while it was being advertised in 2009, right, and you're like, it's this new, like, as far as Nicolas Cage starring in a Hollywood movie,
right?
It's like, this is your last chance, Nick.
Right, Nick.
So to see that and then to say, oh, and the final shot of this movie, knowing about like mysterious numbers and creepy little kids, is going to be this fucking gorgeous CGI shot of another planet with that amazing fucking tree,
giant tree,
and those.
And the multiple moons
going up. Oh, dude.
It just left you with like such like a beautiful like sense of hope.
Yes.
Yeah.
That like all these like chosen kids are just going to like start all over again.
And okay, I also really liked, it was one of those movies where at every moment of the movie I was like, this is borderline garbage. But then the next scene would kind of like reinforce what came before, and you'd be like, oh, that was weird because it's just getting weirder. And,
right.
And then, so what I love the ending, when Nicolas Cage thinks he's going with them.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And then he finds out he can't go.
Yes.
And the movie like really takes the time to show him crying about that. Just to imagine the emotions. He's like, I want to go to space, A, because I'm a fucking MIT professor.
Yes.
And B, like
I don't want to leave my son.
Exactly.
I lost my wife. Now I'm going to lose my son.
Yeah, and then on top of all that, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
The world is going to be destroyed.
Which is also beautiful when they take the time for him to go home and embrace his sister, embrace his estranged father, and they all just like huddle together while the entire world gets set on fire.
And that's the other thing that makes it so connected to Childhood's End is that if you're not one of the chosen ones, you
don't get to go.
You're going to perish.
Yeah.
And the earth is going to disappear.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's totally crazy.
Also, did you notice when the aliens and the children were getting beamed up into the spaceship that their bodies like looked like they had like little angel wings coming off them? I thought that was a little Childhood's End.
I do plan on rewatching that movie because for whatever reason, when I went to rent it, $1 more you could own it.
That's weird.
So I owned it on my PlayStation.
Oh, nice.
But so I definitely want to watch it again.
Yeah.
I just remember when we watched AI, artificial intelligence.
Oh my God, yes.
And how the whole beginning, it's the beginning 75% of that movie is not necessarily normal, but it's like, it's just like a Steven Spielberg movie.
Right.
And then the ending is this ridiculously far in the future, philosophy, crazy shit.
Yeah.
I got that sense from this movie too.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely.
I agree.
It's almost like some random golden age sci-fi author is the one who like wrote the ending, and then some ding dong Hollywood guy who like has to hit the numbers wrote the first 75%. I don't know.
Let's put a plane crash in there.
Okay, that
crazy subway incident.
That part was cool though. I like the plane crash.
I know it was fun, but it was
the
just
subway
like
was a little much.
The plane crash is amazing because it's all one shot.
Yeah,
yes.
That's what makes that amazing.
Yes.
But it's also like, so I like too in the movie how the movie kind of sometimes acknowledges how ridiculous it is. Do you remember when he figures out that the numbers correspond to where the things are happening?
Yes.
And he's on the highway looking at his GPS and he goes, he's like, right here?
Yeah.
like right where I am with this like movie logic is where the disaster is going to happen?
Yeah.
And like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But fuck it. He said it's ridiculous too. So whatever.
Yeah.
And then that though also proves, like, goes back into the point where like, obviously everything is happening for a reason, which was his biggest.
Yeah, he didn't.
Right.
His biggest, push and pull.
Well, that's the same thing at the end of Signs. He realizes that everything she was saying was in order to prepare them to fight aliens someday.
Right.
But, well, I mean, that's just another problem. I mean, there's plenty of problems with this movie, but, like, why is it telling you when disasters are happening? Like, why are these numbers telling? And, like, okay, in a whole week, there's only 2 major disasters, both in the area where Nicolas Cage lives, to take note of in this stream of numbers.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Like, it's an entire planet. There's probably people dying.
Why the warning? Like, there was no reason, especially if the whole point is he can't do anything about it. Which is also interesting because he thought he could do something about it.
Maybe the grandmother is the first one. Like, I feel like when you imagine this, you think, okay, this has been foretold for a long time. Maybe the aliens found out only in 1959 that the Earth was going to be destroyed by a solar flare.
Yeah.
So that's when they started beaming their numbers to people. I mean, again, it still doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Well, they were whispering. Remember? They would whisper in her ear.
Yeah.
But why were they whispering in her ear? If the end of the world wasn't going to be until years later.
It was obviously meant to be that she wrote the numbers on the paper, put it in the time capsule. That kid just happened to go to that school, open it that year. So, like, maybe there was just, like, it was meant to be that for some reason these 2 kids went.
So what do you have to be, like, connected somehow? I literally don't know.
I don't think it's even worth it. Because it probably doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I do like how this movie also, like, I appreciate any movie that bucks trends.
Yeah.
You know how he's kind of in the beginning like the absentee dad?
Yeah.
But I just love how there's that kind of issue in the beginning where he's like, oh shit, I forgot about my son's event. And then he shows up and he waves and it's like, no big deal.
Oh, right.
Whereas that shit happens in movies all the time with like a absentee father where he misses the event.
Yeah.
And the kid's all sad the next day.
Yeah.
It's like, move on. Don't care. Seen it before. Please. Or like in movies when love stories, I love in movies where love story, like where the two characters clearly have a thing for each other, and they just get together early in the movie, and it's just not an issue. Like it's not an issue.
Don't
It's
play
not
it
like
out.
the end of the movie is them kissing.
Yes.
Like because it's just been done so many times.
That is actually something I appreciate about this movie as well, is that those two were their only reason, the two adults in the film, the guy, Nicolas Cage, and the woman, like their only concern was for their children. They weren't like, end of the world, let's make out. Like, you know, they were just like, let's survive together. Lonely. We're going to try and survive
even
together.
Even how she thinks that he's crazy. So she like takes his kid.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
A lot of kidnapping going on in this movie.
There was a lot of kidnapping.
And then I guess the last thing I will say about the movie that I loved, it just gave me a sense I don't think really any other movie has given me. Like the whole thing is supernatural, right? I mean, even though it's about aliens, it's really like it's creepy little kids. It's jump scares. You don't know what's going on. There's this apparently magical list of numbers that predicts things.
Yeah.
But then at the end, it's straight up, no mystery, no even aliens involved. It's a fucking solar flare.
Yeah.
And in movies, like, they're always like, okay, we're gonna go up into space and we're gonna devise a fucking plan and we're gonna shoot the asteroid. We're gonna nuke the asteroid. Right. It's all gonna be fine. And this one, the guy's like, fucking go underground if you can.
Can't do anything about this.
Because that's so as ridiculous and unrealistic and fucking weird the whole beginning of the movie is. At the end, the craziest thing in the movie is treated with the most realism.
Yeah.
Solar flare, guys. Like, there's nothing. You're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Like black, white, no matter who you are.
Nothing.
You work. It's over.
Yeah.
Like I'm your government, but who fucking cares at this point?
Even I mean, think about it. Even the aliens know enough to rescue some of the children because they probably can't do anything about it.
Right. And then I loved the shot. There's one shot of the Earth, and it's just like being blasted.
Yeah.
Like there's like light. There's just like fiery light going off in either direction.
Right.
It's cosmically epic.
Yeah. I also liked how throughout, it was very subtle, but like throughout the whole movie, they talk about how warm it's getting. And
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and like remember he's like laying on the couch at one point, and there's like a news thing, and it's like weather. It's talking about the heat, and then they like talk about it later, like, oh, it's so hot in here. Remember in the museum, it's so hot in here, and then like I was like, what, like at the end when like there are leaves blowing around, I'm like, what season is this? Like it's summer, but there are leaves, and I'm like, oh, it's fall, but it's hot.
Yeah.
Because the sun.
Yeah.
Right.
And even when he calls his dad, he's like, the heat's not going to get any better.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's like
that's
this,
like how he tells
little,
them that the world's going to end.
Right. Like the subtle little undertone. It's really interesting.
So, yeah. I just, I guess that's it.
Yeah.
I mean,
fun film. Definitely check it out.
Yeah. Because I love, it's fun to go into sci-fi and know what you like, see what you like in a trailer, go see that movie, get exactly what you thought you would get,
right?
Which is good,
right?
Yeah.
But then it's almost better to expect nothing and not only get competence, but get something that you just completely didn't think would be part of the movie.
Yeah.
And it happens to be the thing that you love the most in movies.
Yeah, definitely.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So if you're a space dreamer, this is 100% your kind of movie.
Yeah,
definitely.
Absolutely.
Just be aware that it's like sad dad Nicolas Cage for like at least 50%.
And a little ridiculous, but you know,
totally
creepy children.
Whatever. Yeah.
A lot of creepy children in the beginning.
Yes. So anyway, this was just a bonus episode, as I mentioned. I think probably going to be the only time I do this with a short story. I can't think of any Clarke stories that are as amazing or impactful on me as the 9 Billion Names of God. It's a short story that I would suggest anyone read, not just sci-fi lovers. Like I've suggested it over the years to plenty of people, regardless of what they like. So if you haven't read the 9 Billion Names of God, it's extremely easy to access. Like you can get it on the internet for free. It's not hard to find. Just read it, even though we just spoiled the whole fucking thing, but whatever.
Yeah, but reading it, and I think reading it is, like we were talking, reading it is different from watching that short film.
Yep.
And even hearing somebody talk about it is different from reading it.
Right.
Because of how good it is.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. It's an excellent short story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the short film is available on, and I totally want to give credit where credit's due. The short film is available on Vimeo and has the same title. It's The 9 Billion Names of God. And I am super quick going to look up who made it. The 9 Billion Names of God came out in 2018 in France, it appears. Everyone always talks about how they love IMDb. This is the worst fucking website ever. This is not where I get my movie information, ever. Fuck this website. I'm going to Wikipedia. No, I'm going to go... Where should I go? Vimeo. I go to Vimeo.
Yeah, it says his name. Well, I don't know.
When people say they use IMDb, I'm just like, why? Why? There's no need for that. They have their own like streaming service now.
They do.
Do you provide information on movies or do you make movies? Won a bunch of awards. Dominique Philhol. I'm probably saying that wrong. He's French, so it's made by a French guy.
Makes sense with the French subtitles.
Yes. Yeah, he's a director. So that guy's awesome. Made a cool movie.
Yeah, it was really well done.
Yeah, dude. Then now I'm on like his page on Vimeo. It's kind of interesting. He's got a lot of stuff about space.
Cool.
And you can, making of music, the 9 Billion Names of God. Did you notice in the beginning how it didn't say like original music, it said cello solos by?
Oh, right.
So there's like one guy, I guess, who made all the music. Very cool. Very cool movie. So anyway, I don't actually know currently when this episode will go live, so tune in next time. I'm sure it'll be a good episode.
Yeah.
For the interest of chronology, I think I will release this episode right after Childhood's End, because it came out same year, written a year before, but released the same year. Okay.
Got some good tie-ins.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That's
I
it.
agree. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Whatever. It was weird how they said they made it take place in 1957. Like, why don't you just make it take place in 1953 when it was written?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Good
that
point.
is strange.
You know?
Huh.
Oh, well. Wait, let's see. Do I have a... Oh, nope. Over an hour. Oh, well. I thought we were going to have less than an hour episode. But I prefer to be always over an hour. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's sign the fuck off. You got to sign off?
Yep. So say we all.
So say we all.
So say we all. Literally.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of The Space Dreamers, a Sue Madre production. See you next time.